In my last prayer update, I asked you to pray about two specific things. The first was the food package distribution, where we were planning to bless people in Tivoli Gardens, Majesty Gardens, and also Trenchtown with some food just to help over the Christmas period. And the second one was the plan to give out Christmas gifts to lots of the children. And thank you for praying. I wanted to share a little bit of the story about how it all worked out and just how many times we saw God sort of meeting us and blessing us and walking with us through these outreaches. So firstly, as we looked at the budget, it was incredibly generous. We had a lot to work with, which was a real blessing. We looked at how much we had to do food packages. We got a lot of gifts given in kind from Emmanuel Christian Academy, which was, again, incredibly generous this year. So as we looked at that, we saw, well, we can definitely do food packages for a lot of the families and a lot of the elderly. We can definitely do Christmas gifts for the younger children, but we weren't sure if there was any way we could get a few more gifts for the older children. And those are the children who've been around our programs for a long time. We've known them, we've known their families, and it's significant to remember them at this time of year. But we were in a bit of a dilemma. You know, do we bless the families with food or do we bless the kids with a gift? So when we were in that dilemma, I went to visit some of the mums in Trenchtown and just chat with them and say, look, what would be the biggest blessing to you? Would it be the food or the presents to your children? And they looked at us and said, look, honestly, right now, it's been a really hard year. Some extra food in the house over Christmas would be really appreciated. So we took note of that and said, okay, thanks, and we'll probably see if we can do that. Then as I headed back towards the bus with another team member, climbed into the bus, and there was a swarm of children sort of rushing towards us, and they all sort of came and said, sir, we're getting a present this year. And so I said to them, well, honestly, we're definitely going to do for the younger kids, we're definitely going to do some food packages for the families, but that may be just the way we can bless you guys this year is food in the home. And they just looked so disappointed and were like, sir, no, we want a present, sir, we want a present. And so I just said, look, pray with us and we'll see what can happen, but we can't promise anything at this point. So dropped off the team, came home, and Liz and I have been reading to our children at home the story of George Mueller, who just prayed and prayed about so many different things and saw God's provision coming time after time. In the end, feeding, clothing, educating and providing for 10,000 orphans in his lifetime in Bristol. So we thought, well, let's use some of that faith and let's pray. And between that night and the following morning, we received 2 more very generous donations. In fact, we received several more the days after, so we could do more food packages than we planned to. But that just meant that we had a sense of, go ahead, thumbs up, we can go and get gifts for the older ones as well as the younger ones, and do the food packages for the elderly and the parents. So because we then ended up with all these food packages to give out and all these gifts to give out, and because of when the donations came in, it was all over the same weekend, it ended up being really quite a major task to do. So we had all of our lists and we're trying to do all the logistics and asked some of the team to step up to different responsibilities, and they really stepped up and were very helpful in getting gifts, especially for the older ones. It's always hard to get appropriate gifts for older kids, and also just sorting out the lists of names and everything so that each gift was labelled to go to exactly the right child. So on the Friday before, I had a huge list of tasks to get done, and the traffic was really bad and there were lots of things that slowed us down, and we ended up just not being able to get through. I probably made it through half of the list of jobs. So Saturday morning I got up and I was feeling pretty concerned. I just did not feel ready for the huge task that we had ahead of us. And Psalm 27, one of the last verses in that says, I am confident of this, that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And that was the word I really needed to hear at that time. And it just sort of got my faith and my confidence up to say, okay, God, you've blessed us with all these things. You must have a plan. Even though I don't see it, you've got to have a way through that we can get through. Everything that needs to be done. And so went down to the centre pretty early, got some of the team there. We started early. One of the jobs we hadn't done was do all the cleaning up of the centre. We'd done most of it, but one of the rooms we hadn't got to. And so I unlocked and went up to that room. And the first thing I was greeted with was a sort of a weird kind of furry pile in the corner. And I went and looked over it, and there was a cat who'd gone into the centre and died there. and so had to clean that up. Thankfully we had some black plastic bags. Even that just couldn't shake the sense of peace and the sense of knowing that everything was going to come together. Dealt with that, sanitized it, got it smelling nice and fresh for the team to come in and sort Christmas gifts. Then teams started turning up. The mums who've been working with us this year particularly, we'd asked them to come and help, and they started turning up. Everything started happening, packing out flour, rice, sugar, all the different things that needed to be done. We still had a few items to buy. And one of the mums said, "Oh, look, I knew where I was going at the market, but there was a wholesale just next door." And she said, "Oh, I know, I've got a wholesale there we can go to." So we went there. We got all the items that we needed to get for that morning. Another mum had actually volunteered to go and buy the footballs for us separately, so she did that. One of my team members was downtown already, so he got all of the gift bags for us. All these little things that we just hadn't managed to tie together all came together by 10 o'clock in the morning. Then it was just sorting and packing and getting everything ready. And so by that evening we were able to get out and go to Tivoli Gardens. And even that, a team from Trenchtown going into Tivoli Gardens to go and bless, if anybody knows anything about the political history in Jamaica, going across the borderline and blessing people in Tivoli was really significant. Even then, our contact in Tivoli, hadn't managed to get back to me. I'd been getting a lot of, calls with no answer, and it was the day before that they finally, we got through to them. They said, "Yeah, we're ready. We've got a list of old people." They said they had 30. We actually packed in 50 because we were going to go to Majesty Gardens afterwards. But when we got to Tivoli, they said, "Oh, look, we could really use the 50." And we knew we still had enough to do Majesty Gardens as well. So ended up doing that, 50 packages to the elderly in Tivoli Gardens.
I thank God for that. Come here. Evelyn there. It's for a purpose. So I want to say thank you for what you has done. God is a wonderful Savior, mighty God,
Yes.
everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, best friend to have Jesus, and He's wonderful in my life.
So then we got to Sunday, and the job was to go and give out food packages to all the parents and also Christmas gifts to all the children. A couple of the young guys had come to help on the Saturday, so we asked them to help again on the Sunday. And these are in the sort of 12 to 14 age bracket, and a lot of high energy young people. If people are negative to them, they can be pretty reactive in response. But they were with us as we prayed. And were so helpful. I mean, they were so patient. There were times it was pretty demanding, quite a lot of crowds, as you'll see from the photos. And yet they were really good at getting packages to the right parents, gifts to the right children, and doing it in a way that just, saw them and loved each one. And so we were so grateful for, pretty much a miraculous transformation in them to help us with the job, and just the way it worked. The children were just so grateful. It's an amazing thing seeing a child whose name is written on the tag and they get the gift and it just says, "We remember you." Two more instances where we really knew we needed to pray. One was because we finished on Sunday night after 9:30. We hadn't yet got to Majesty Gardens, and we also hadn't got the packages to the elderly in Trenchtown. So, we'd done the parents, we'd done the Christmas gifts for the children, but there were a few things remaining to be done. We couldn't go to Majesty that night because things had been fairly tense with the violence there. So the team said, look, don't come now. We also had a couple of deadlines that we needed to meet for other things on the Monday and Tuesday, so we knew we would have to go and do the remaining packages on Wednesday. So that was one other area where we just prayed, because we had all these food packages in the centre where we know cats can get in, probably a few other creatures can get in, and so we just prayed for their protection. And when we got back to the centre on the Wednesday, nothing had been touched or disturbed in any way. So that was another real big answer to prayer. We went and delivered everything to Majesty Gardens, and they got to give them out there. And then we went back to Trenchtown, started to give out the first few packages, and then there was a major thunderstorm. So we had to stop again and then finish off finally on the Thursday morning. And even in that, we were just praying that God would direct us. We had more packages for the elderly than we had anticipated, so we had more people than were on our list. Some of the mums came to help us find, the people really in need, and they were such a blessing and so helpful. So at the end of all of it, we were able to give gifts to the younger children, gifts to the older children, food packages to the parents, and food packages to a lot of the elderly and those who are in need, even more than we had anticipated giving. It's just been remarkable the way God has remembered all these people, and has done it through you, through us working together. So we just want to say thank you. When the early Jewish Christians, who as Jews used to be on the inside of what God was doing, saw Paul reaching out to the Gentiles and the amazing things that were happening among those who used to be on the outside, they had to work out, how does that work now? How does this work with our understanding of God, and even change their understanding of God? But they said, go for it. We can see God's goodness and generosity to these people. They just said to him one thing. All they asked was that we should continue to remember the poor, the very thing I'd been eager to do all along. As God has just turned up in amazing ways throughout this season, we have seen, the little kids feel remembered. We've seen the older kids feel remembered. We've seen the parents feel remembered. We've seen the elderly feel remembered. We've seen Tivoli Gardens, Majesty Gardens and Trenchtown feeling remembered. And that, I think, is the most significant gift that all of this has been, for people to know that they're remembered. So thank you to all of you who've given so generously in remembering the poor. Thanks to all of you who helped out. Thank you to our team who stepped up to the task. Thank you to the mums who came and packed out flour and rice and sugar. Thank you, everybody. It's been really special to see the way God has remembered the poor over this Christmas. So thanks, and God bless you, and have a great Christmas.
Yeah, we thank God for when they said Uncle David and the rest of the team come here to help the kids them at Kids Club. Because sometimes when we get a little meal from Uncle David, we never have a next movie we're getting a next meal from. So we thank all who give in the sponsoring. We thank them very much, and thank Uncle David. And we have to put God first. Thank you very much.
Big up God Almighty, make everything possible. And who receiving this, I hope them have a good Christmas and a prosperous New Year from God. Right.
Thanks. Love you guys. God bless you. Thanks for everything. Every single thing. Say hi.
Blessed love to one another. Thank you all for what you have done for us. We really appreciate it. We'll all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And
Same to you.
Thanks, Kids Club, for giving me a blessed Christmas. Love you.
Here, and that means Merry Christmas.